everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of Tech Safe, brought to us here in Worcester, Massachusetts. I want to extend my gratitude to the studio for graciously letting us hold this program. Today, I don't have an invited guest, but what I am excited to do is to share with you a number of resources through books. Not everybody is a visual learner. Some people just like to curl up with a good book. So I'm going to walk us through some books that have been written decades ago, as well as most recently, that will help us to educate ourselves, our children, our healthcare practitioners, and everyone else that we care about in our world on how to recognize wireless radiation risks and, most importantly, get to safe technology solutions. So when I first fell down the rabbit hole with this wireless issue back in 2012, I want to say, I came across the work of Dr. Deborah Davis. She is a Nobel Peace Prize co-laureate on climate change and one of the world's leading scientists. And she thought surely if there was anything to know about wireless technology that she would know. And she didn't. And she began researching, and she issued the book Disconnect by Dr. Deborah Davis, and she has just come out with an updated version of Disconnect. And it is a scientist's solution for safer technology. She has a foreword by Frank Clegg, who's the retired president of Microsoft Canada. So these are some of our North America leading experts on this radiation. And she will walk us through the science, walk us through how this technology was developed, and what it's doing to our brain, to our reproductive systems, to all of our biological systems. And it's all very well documented in the science. And it also gives us guidelines for how to protect yourself, your family, and your community. So this is an excellent book for somebody who wants to sit down and really drill through the facts on this. Now, I want to give a shout out to some others who have been working on this for more than 2 decades. B. Blake Levitt has been a medical writer and a journalist for many years, and she wrote 24 years ago a book called Cell Towers, Wireless Convenience or Environmental Hazard. So some have known about this risk for a very long time, and she talks about what needs to happen in our planning and zoning regulations. She also wrote a book called Electromagnetic Fields, A Consumer's Guide to the Issue and How to Protect Ourselves. So this, again, is from several years back, but it gives you a rich history, not only of what it's doing to you and I, but also to our planet. And then that leads us to an electronic silent spring by Katie Singer, Facing the Dangers and Creating Safe Limits. So some will recognize that Silent Spring began to address environmental pollutants prior to this, and now Katie Singer has written this to teach us what these man-made electromagnetic fields are doing to us and to our environment. So wonderful, wonderful sections in here, and talking about all of our electromagnetic fields, from the natural Earth's electromagnetic field to the radio frequency radiation to the other types of man-made electromagnetic fields, from electrical and magnetic pulsations. So a really good read with Katie Singer. She also has a really good electronicsilentspring.com website, where she posts cutting-edge information on what this technology is doing, and especially when we look at it from cradle to grave. She covers a lot of the human atrocities that are happening down in the Congo and elsewhere to get us the minerals that we need to have all of these electronics if we choose to continue using this type of technology. So those are excellent resources to help us understand the issue and to provide some guidelines. This is a book that some find useful. It's by Nick Pinot up in Canada, and he wrote the Non-Tinfoil Hat Guide to EMFs. And again, EMF stands for electromagnetic fields, and in this case, of man-made radiation. And he takes it very easily through. He writes in a way that's very accessible to most of us, and then he also gets into solutions in here. So I like the name that he gave to this, the Non-Tinfoil Hat Guide to EMFs, because by now we have all been conditioned by industry to think tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist anytime somebody opens their mouth and says, I think we have an issue with today's wireless technology. So the Non-Tinfoil Guide to EMFs will help to set a lot of the records straight. So one of the areas that caught my interest is when I started learning about what kind of electromagnetic energy does the Earth provide to us versus what we've now done with all of this man-made energy. And for those who may know Schumann's resonance, Schumann was a scientist who was able to identify that the Earth pulses these beautiful, healing electromagnetic fields, and those come at us at 7.83 times per second, or that's called a hertz. So 7.83 hertz is what the Earth's lovely natural healing energy is that every living thing on the planet was meant to be connected to, from you and I to plants to pollinators to the trees. Every biome out there is regulated by this pulsation of electrons that come from the Earth. When we started introducing digital technology, we started operating now today in the megahertz range and the gigahertz range. So mega means million. We're supposed to be operating around 7.83 hertz. Mega means million. 1 million times per second, we are being pulsated with these man-made microwave radiation frequencies. In the gigahertz range, which a lot of the newer technology is including, we are getting 1 billion pulsations of man-made spiked modulated energy per second. So that often explains why so many people are starting to suffer from electromagnetic illnesses. So when I was first learning about Schumann's resonance, I came across a book called Earthing, and the subtitle on here is The Most Important Health Discovery Ever. It's written by Clint Ober and Stephen Sinatra, medical doctor, and Martin Zucker. And what this does is it goes into the science behind the Earth's natural electromagnetic field. And I thought, okay, well, I read the science and I'm thinking, okay, I get it. And a lot of elite athletes use earthing and grounding to keep their bodies in top shape. So all that means literally is reconnecting with the Earth's natural electromagnetic field. So I got that. I looked at the cover. It's got footprints in the sand, which is a lovely way to ground, but I live here in the Northeast, and I can't get out and put my feet on the ground maybe for 6 months out of the year here. So I was delighted, after I learned the science from the earthing book, that Dr. Laura Conover, who's a practicing medical doctor, she came up with this book called The Earth Prescription. And she says, discover the healing power of nature with grounding practices for every season. And what I love about this book is she does literally take us through all 4 seasons. And she makes recommendations for how you and I can get reconnected to the Earth's healing energy. And again, she's got barefoot here on the grass on the cover, but she is very great to go through. And she taught me some really wonderful ways to get out and do grounding naturally, even if I can't be outside and barefoot. So one of the things that I learned is if you touch something that is grounded, such as a furry pet, but you go for the less furry parts like the snout or the ears, and if they are on the ground, you will naturally be grounded through them. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then I also learned that any of our plants, our trees that have a high water content, like in the leaves or the pine needles, as soon as you touch those, you are instantly grounded through the grounding provided through their root system. So she goes through wonderful community events you might do to celebrate getting outside, in all 4 seasons, and ways to bring people together. So healing energy is free from the earth, and we've all, kind of gotten away from it. We all wear rubber-soled shoes, and that rubber creates a barrier to the earth's electrons. The blacktop has a petrolatum product in it that seals off those electrons, so we don't get it from our shoes, we don't get it from the hot top, and we don't get it from the rubber sneakers we put on our cars and the rubber tires. We have come to live off the ground, so we're sleeping off the ground, so we're not grounding while we sleep anymore. So it's really a wonderful read with the Earth Prescription to learn how to get back out and do grounding naturally. After I read this, I went and got myself a little pair of winter gloves that had the flap on it so my fingers could be exposed. So when I go out for a walk in the winter, I will just gently caress the leaves and the pine needles and find that I get grounded that way. There are also companies that offer footwear that have embedded a little plug in the sole that has metal shavings in it and then metal thread in the footbed of the shoe, so that you can go in and wear that outdoors and it will conduct the electrons up into your body. So there are companies who are bringing wonderful products to market. So for every problem we've created with wireless technology, the solutions truly do abound. So when I was first learning about this, I was so delighted that Dr. Deborah Davis brought a panel of world-leading experts to the Massachusetts State House to ask for right-to-know legislation. And one of the experts that she brought was Dr. Catherine Steiner-Adair, who is a psychologist, I believe. And she wrote a book called The Big Disconnect. And I was so enthralled by her talk, and that is available at Massachusetts for Safe Technology. If you go to our resources page, most of these books are also listed on there through a link to my personal research repository. And what I learned from Dr. Catherine Steiner-Adair is that we have begun to develop a generation of children who are not always learning how to self-modulate, to regulate their behavior, to be able to calm their emotions when needed. So what Dr. Steiner-Adair did is she took this chapter by chapter through all of the different development levels of a wee little child all the way up through the high school years. And she talks about the impact that today's technology is having on our children. So again, and I've said this in other episodes, the message is not no technology, but we need to have a balance of information so that we as parents and guardians and individuals can make a choice around what is appropriate technology. So one of the areas that really struck me is that Dr. Catherine Steiner-Adair indicated that in the brain, in the different hemispheres, where we learn science and math, those were, at this point in time, still on point for most children. The other area of the brain where we develop human qualities, the ability to connect with one another, to have eye contact, to have empathy, those areas are suffering when we leave our children in the shallows of a screen. So one of the examples that she gave is that the way the brain develops, children need to be outside. They need to be connecting with the natural world. They need to be playing underneath the rhododendron and going into deeper and deeper and deeper levels of imaginative play. That is what's going to help develop a child's brain properly. They need to be interacting with other peers in real time. They need to be connecting with nature. They need to be having movement and human touch and being guided by loving, trusted, interpersonally connected adults in their lives. So the Big Disconnect by Dr. Catherine Steiner Adair takes us through the various stages of childhood development and what we need to know about technology influences. Now, when we had our first EMF, or electromagnetic fields medical conference out in California in 2019, one of our invited faculty members was Dr. Victoria Dunkley, who's a psychiatrist or psychologist. And she works with children. She has come up with a book called Reset Your Child's Brain, a 4-week plan to end meltdowns, raise grades, and boost social skills by reversing the effects of electronic screen time. So Dr. Victoria Dunkley has a 4-week protocol that many families are completely intimidated by at first because they've seen what happens when they try to separate their child from their electronics. If your child blows a fuse when you set the boundaries and try to remove the electronic from them, that's a pretty good sign that they may be tipping into the area of digital addiction. And so what Dr. Dunkley has come up with in Reset Your Child's Brain is this 4-week protocol where in the first week, you as parents take some pointers from her on how to actively parent, actively structure your child's time so they have activities that they love and are interested in, as well as a balance of downtime where they can just heal and have creative time for themselves. So the first week is about learning and planning how to do a digital detox. And then the next 3 weeks, you actually implement the digital detox. And a lot of times families will do this together so that the one child is not left feeling like they're the bad guy in the family and they're disrupting the apple cart. When the family can work on this together, they see amazing results at the end of these 4 weeks. I know with one of my daughters, she did some typical teenage stuff, and I grounded her and I took her electronics away from her. And I will tell you, at the end of that 1-week grounding period, I had my daughter back because I somehow plucked up the courage to remove her from this electronic environment where she was going down some rabbit holes that she didn't know how to get herself back out of. And so any separation we can mindfully do is a healthy step in the right direction. And then come back to balance at the end of this. What is an appropriate time for your specific child to have access to technology, and how do we manage that? So some very good constructive information in Dr. Victoria Dunkley's Reset Your Child's Brain. And for an upcoming new release, Dr. Carrie Crofton came up with a book called Less Screen, More Green. And she's up in Canada. She's been a corporate trainer for many years. That's where a large part of her practice has been. And she is a PhD psychologist. So she wrote a book called Less Screen, More Green, and it has a wonderful introduction by Dr. Jane Goodall, who recognizes how desperately we and our children need to be back and connected with the natural environment. So Dr. Crofton is actually doing a new release of her Less Screen, More Green book. We anticipate it will be out later this year. And she takes a very gentle touch. So she uses a lot of very empowering photos. Let's show what we ought to be doing instead of being on our screens all the time. And let's talk through the science. Let's understand it. Let's hear from other world-leading doctors and scientists and advocates. And then let's come up with a plan to get us to technology safety. So she's going to have this new release coming out shortly. This is another really good book in a very gentle way to teach us how to get to less screen, more green. And she also did a wellness guide for the digital age that also has some excellent resources as well as some checklists and other hands-on materials that will help us to get to safe technology. So I also wanted to share a couple of books that people who have become electrically sensitive have written. And when this hits, and it's cumulative, so people who are feeling great today, tonight might be the time when you hit that tipping point and your body during sleep can no longer cell repair and recover from this burden of electropollution, and it builds up in our systems. And many more people today are hitting that tipping point. So I just wanted to show, this is one author, Susan Jeffrey Busen. She wrote Tormented by Technology, and this is her journey on how she got so sick, how she figured it out, and what she would like others to know, down to the details of how to detox yourself in your home, the silent health effects of wireless electromagnetic radiation. Sam Weeder has also done a very small book called Unplug. He frames it that you could give this to your doctor, you could give this to your town, you could give this to your loved ones, and in about an hour, they can get through this. Sam wrote this book because he and his beloved wife, Jacqueline, worked together at home in their home office with two of everything. They each had their laptops, they had their printers, they had their mouse, they had their, their phones, their laptops, all of this electropollution pulsating at them densely for several years. And they got sick, and sadly, his wife, Jacqueline, did not survive. And so he dedicates this book, Unplugged, to his wife, Jacqueline. And he has also done a documentary now. So if you are a visual learner, you might go look up Unplugged and how to survive and thrive in a Wi-Fi world gone wild. So thank you, Sam, for that. And again, he's got action steps, quick start things, the first things you want to start looking at. So resources abound. And for our towns, Camilla Reese and Dr. Timothy Sheckley and others at the National Institute for Science, Law, and Public Policy published Reinventing Wires, the Future of Landlines and Networks. This is an excellent roadmap for you and I to bring to our towns. Wireless is no longer advanced technology. It has outlived its useful life. The way forward to sustainable, green, private, secure, and safe technology is simply to bring fiber optics to and through the premises, and then we just connect with Ethernet cables and adapters to our own devices. So our towns don't have to do this on their own. We have amazing resources to first teach them, because all they've heard from industry is, hey, we'll give you some money if you let us put cell towers and small cells in your community, which are making a lot of people sick today. And the utility smart meters too. There's no reason why we don't hardwire those to the premises and omit the wireless radio frequency transmitters. A lot of states today have bills right now to give everybody, as a starting point, a no-fee opt-out on those smart meters, because they pulse this radiation 24/7, and that is making a lot of people sick. So Reinventing Wires, the Future of Landlines and Networks, is an excellent resource for our town. And again, this is available at Massachusetts for Safe Technology on our resources page. So in addition to educating ourselves and our towns, we also have to be the conduit to bring information forward to our own healthcare teams. We are so very grateful to all the world-leading experts who came together for the EMF Medical Conference 2021. There were 24.5 continuing medical education credits that expired in July of 2023. Elizabeth Kelly, who organized that conference, has taken the entire conference. It's a compilation of about 60 videos that range from maybe 18 minutes to a half an hour to an hour. So anybody can start slotting these into their calendars and training at their own pace. But we have that training available today to learn how to recognize, diagnose, treat, and most importantly, prevent these electromagnetic illnesses. And with great thanks to Dr. Dimitri Panagopoulos out of Greece and his colleagues from around the world who contributed chapters, We now have the world's first medical school textbook called Electromagnetic Fields of Wireless Communications, Biological and Health Effects. So this textbook can now be introduced through college and medical school curriculums. So thank you to all the experts who gave their time for that. And then Michael Bevington has written Electromagnetic Sensitivity and Electromagnetic Hypersensitivity, also known as asthenic sickness, EMF intolerant sickness, idiopathic environmental intolerance, EMF, microwave syndrome, and radio wave syndrome. So he has done a really wonderful summary here to talk people through what electromagnetic radiation is doing to us and how prevalent it has become in our society. He brings a lot of the science and gets really down to the nuts and bolts, which is great for healthcare practitioners as well as those suffering from electromagnetic illnesses. And then as we wrap up today, I wanted to give a big shout out to educators who are developing materials for children to learn from. So parents, grandparents, guardians. These are amazing little books. This Wireless Wise Kids is no bigger than a Scholastic book. It's got, bright pictures. It's got big print, lots of white space. But it's a wonderful way to teach safer ways to use mobile and wireless technology. And it says, kids, do you use a mobile phone, a cordless phone, a tablet, or a wireless laptop? Then here's what you need to know. Suitable for young people aged 5 to 85 and beyond. So Wireless Wise Kids. I bought a bunch of these when I was meeting with our state legislators early on, and this is what I left with them because it's baby steps. We're all learning together. That was by Lynn McLean in Australia, who was a former teacher. She then went to work for her government and wound up working in the telecommunications area. And that's where she got involved and did that book, beautifully illustrated by Janet Selby. And then Lynn McLean has also gone on to create a book called Wireless Wise Families, which is actually a workbook. It teaches you the facts. It gives you lots of space to write down what's going on in your own environment, and then she teaches you how to start taking those baby steps to get to safe technology. And I want to close today with this incredible new book that has come out called The Wishing Tree, a building biology-inspired fairy tale. This is by Chris McPhee and Scott Ricker, illustrated by Ethan Roffler. And when their mom becomes sick, Stephen and Paula seek out the mysterious wishing tree for help. Join our heroes on their adventure as they learn about building biology, the science of healthy homes. During their journey, magical friends teach them about nature, but will it be enough to help their mom? So they talk about environmental pollutants in here in a child-friendly way, including chemicals, electromagnetic fields, and a bit more. So The Wishing Tree. And with that, I wish you all a tech-safe day. Thanks for tuning in. Go to Massachusetts for Safe Technology, and on our resources page, you'll find a link to books, as well as DVDs and expert talks and all sorts of wonderful things to help you and your loved ones have a tech-safe day. Thank you.